Good evening, everyone. So here we are. Okay, thank you for joining us tonight. This is the annual meeting of Frome Town Council. I'm Philip Campagna, and I'll be chairing the first item on the agenda, which is to elect our new mayor for the year ahead. Just to remind everyone, we've got people online and people in the room. For those in the room, a little housekeeping. The emergency exit is in the rear corner of the room. The assembly point is the far side of the car park. Toilets at the end of the corridor on the right, and there is an accessible toilet to the right of the lift. As I said before, please help yourself to tea and coffee and refreshments. Tonight, Paul Clark, Laura, Sarah, Becca, and Lucy will manage the minutes, question board, participant settings, and the IT generally. The meeting will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel. For those councillors attending via Zoom, please use the yellow hand, and for anyone else, ask questions through the Q&A board. I said I've got one duty tonight, which is the election of the mayor, but I have two thank yous that I must do before we proceed. And the first thank you is to a person who I was told last year at this point by Sarah that I must treasure. And I have treasured her, and she's been absolutely brilliant all year. Couldn't do it without her, and that's Laura. And the second thank you is to the person that's had to deal with my fortnightly scribblings of a dyslexic mayor, and has done an absolutely brilliant job and been great support, and always there to sort of sort out ideas and what themes we should pick up, and also a brilliant photographer, Lucy. Right, it says here, my last job of this evening, I think it's my last job as mayor, is to ask if anyone would like to propose the new mayor. Who is it, Sarah? Thank you. So Andy Jones is proposed. We have a seconder, please. Fiona Burrows. All those?
That's unanimous. I think, yeah, I'm not sure whether, Andy, you can vote for yourself. It's unanimous, definitely. Yeah.
Congratulations, Andy.
Oh. I get a pre-warmed chair.
Just make a little bit of ceremony about your slide.
Okay. So apparently my first act is that I have to sign a declaration of acceptance of office, which I will fill in now. I suppose you better have my Sunday name on there.
Jeremy? 15th.
You countersign that, please, Paul.
Will do.
Okay. The second part of that, and first of all, let me just say good evening and welcome from me. It's going to take me a little while to get used to sitting this side of the table, but hey-ho, lots of friends in the room. So normally at this point, we would be electing a deputy mayor. As you all know, councillors are volunteers who give up their time freely, and unfortunately this year, there's no one person who's willing to step in and take on the deputy mayor role. But I do know that many of the colleagues in this room are happy to pick up things that I can't cope with if I'm away or if there's just too much for me to do. So I thank you all for your support through the coming year in anticipation of that. And while I'm doing thank yous, a huge thank you to Phil for having been such a great mayor. He's done wonders for the reputation of the town. He's done wonders for the town bus service and so many other things. So I'm not sure I'll have quite such a high profile on social media, but that's really down to Lucy. Okay, the second item on the agenda is a short presentation from the Frome Neighbourhood Parking Group. If I can ask you to come up. Will you bring a microphone with you from the table, please?
Carry on.
Just flick the switch, it'll come on.
Switch it upwards, Bob.
Okay,
Switch it upwards, Bob, and yeah, that should come on.
it's on. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the introduction. Yep, great. Okay, 5 minutes. For me, that's going to be virtually impossible, but I will do my best. And I would say, first of all, we're back, the Weymouth Road parking scheme. It hasn't gone away. Anyone that walks down Weymouth Road, you will be familiar with this sign, permit holders only, and I've become sort of quite anal, as have the rest of the group, about this. And this is one of the most draconian permit parking schemes we have seen anywhere in the country. If you go to Bath, for instance, Victoria Park there, you're allowed to park for at least 2 or 3 hours around there, which allows park users to go there, etc. But this is 7 days a week, 8:30 till 6, effectively blocking the road for anyone other than permit holders in Weymouth Road. That work? Where do I do it? Out there.
Point towards me.
Oh,
Over this side here, should be that one. That's it.
other way. Okay. We get a lot of comments on the Facebook page. Normally, when there's an event happening in the park and people find that they're unable to park there, and they then comment. But this was a sort of just one of the pertinent comments we've got, which kind of encapsulates the story actually in a paragraph or a few paragraphs. It did start, the debacle started with the planning permission for the Steiner School, now the Avanti School. And those of you with long memories, because this has been going for 5 or 6 years now, will remember that the school put in a parking scheme as part of their planning permission, which was never implemented. So that was the first sort of issue really. And then those people who overwhelmingly had off-street parking used central government rules. Well, you can read it for yourselves. That is, one of the many comments that we have. But the last one is probably very pertinent as well, because it says we've been asking for a proper review of parking need and supply for more than 10 years. And it's well over 10 years now, actually. Single street solutions like this just don't work, and they don't, for the reasons we're going to go into. So the impacts of the scheme and what it's actually done so far, or the impact of it. This has been running now for well over 6 years, actually, since this was first talked about and the consultations began. And we would say, the group, that it's ill-conceived in scaling design and that a far more sensible and less impacting scheme might have been considered. And there were numerous suggestions at the time, but they were all ignored, and we have what we have today. It's made traffic far worse and more dangerous in adjoining streets, which it has. Just today, I was outside the house and there were two cars head to head with the guys outside of the car shouting and screaming at each other because they couldn't pass. There's vast areas of permit parking on Weymouth Road, again, if you walk down there, which are empty. The whole of the bottom end from the park down are virtually empty all the time. The top end, which is supposed to be meter parking, are also empty because people don't want to pay for parking there, so they park in adjoining streets. So those are all empty. It's vastly oversupplied in terms of space for permit holders. It's prevented parking by occupants and traders and those people using the shops in Badcocks, which have no parking, people who have no parking themselves. And the traders in Badcocks have said, because we've spoken to them, that this is actually impacting on their trade, because they used to park at the bottom of Weymouth Road, bottom of Nunney Road, etc., and they can no longer do that in Weymouth Road. It's restricting access and enjoyment of the park users, of which there are many, and they're growing, thankfully, because it's a wonderful park that you guys have created and keeping up. But some people need to park there, around the park, to be able to get there. Those people who are elderly, those people with children, etc., and many people who are using the bowls clubs, the tennis clubs, etc., who come, and those people that come from the other side of town to actually get there. It's created, as I just said just now, mayhem and angry scenes between motorists and pedestrians at certain times of the day, particularly when the schools are opening and closing in the morning and the evening. And lastly, on this one, this is the first and only permit scheme in the town. It's the first one. And there's a view which has grown, and it's a very real one, that residents in one of the highest real estate values in town have effectively privatised the street for their own use. And excluded those people, as I say, that want to use the park, people in adjoining streets that don't have parking spaces from using that street. And we feel that's wrong. This was the... wrong way. The initial... So this is... To show you this, first of all. This is what it looks like if you haven't been down there recently. So this is the bottom end of Weymouth Road, yeah? And it's normally like that. Doesn't matter what time of the day or evening you go there, this is what it's like at the bottom end on the left-hand side there of Weymouth Road. And it goes all the way up to the park. And it's not really, the permit parking isn't really used until you get to the top on the right-hand side. The left-hand side, I say, where the parking meter is, again, unused. This is Castle Street on a typical day. And this is Nunney Road on a typical day as well. And I could have put more photographs up there of Whitewell Road, Whitewell Place, Delmore Road, etc. They all look like those two on the right. There's nowhere to go. And most of those people have no parking places, they have no garages, and they need to be able to park their cars, because they have cars, we all have cars, I'm sure they need to be able to park somewhere. So the impacts, wrong way. So the initial consultation, which did go out to all the streets in the surrounding areas, yeah, when this began, asked people if they felt there was a problem in terms of traffic in parking in their local area. And the streets it went to, if you can't read that, Bennett Gardens, Stomets Lane, Nunney Road, Queen's Road, all the streets in the surrounding areas were asked, is there a problem with parking? And if you can't read it again, in terms of the response rate for all those streets, it was 23%. So only 23% of people bothered responding, yeah, felt there was 23% of people responded to that survey. And the county's own guidance on introducing permits says that unless there is a response rate of 60%, with a majority indicating there is a problem to resolve, it won't go ahead. Yeah? Clear with that? So 60% majority is what the county said had to be reached. It only reached 23%. So that should have been the end of the matter, actually, because people felt there was no problem. Why should we do anything? That should have been the end of the matter. But what happened then was there was further lobbying by residents on Weymouth Road, and who began to sort of group themselves, dare I say. And they then got together and pressed their local councillor, who continued to press the county for a parking solution for Weymouth Road. So following this consultation, as it says, they pressed to have this done. There then followed a proposal for a new scheme just for Weymouth Road and Somerset Road residents, involving extensive lining and residence parking permits for both Somerset Road and Weymouth Road, yeah? Okay. What happened then was that during this consultation, the adjoining streets in Frome Town Council weren't asked to consult on this scheme at all. So the consultation asked residents to vote for a scheme for both streets. It wasn't an either or. What happened then, naturally, is that there was sort of public outcry once this became known, and the scheme for Somerset Road was dropped because naturally people, tennis club, bowls club, etc., needed somewhere to park. I keep going the wrong way. So park users, tennis and bowls clubs, residents of Trinity area and others who had nowhere to park objected to the proposed scheme. There then followed many sort of the town council hosted meetings with Mr. Deakin and others. And because of that opposition, what happened then was there was a scheme put forward which was just for Weymouth Road. The Somerset Road end was dropped, and the Weymouth Road scheme was proposed and went ahead with, as I said, the most draconian restrictions, almost entirely weighted towards Weymouth Road residents. And it was a further 15 months after the scheme was implemented before the consultation on how the implementation, which had taken place, had actually gone. So the consultation took place last summer, and thankfully, nicely, this council actually broadcast the consultation on its sort of web page, etc., to the whole residents of the town. And everyone, we believe there were a large number of replies to that consultation, which ended last summer. Now, the most serious part of all this is that we've now been waiting for over 8 months. And despite us, the group, actually emailing Martin, the councillor there, trying to get sort of something out of the county in terms of the results of that survey and what's going to happen next, we have fallen on absolute deaf ears. Nothing has happened despite all that. Now, we think that's an appalling way to treat not just residents, but taxpayers as well, and all the people who bothered to respond to that survey. And as a result of that, we have now actually put in a formal complaint to the county, to the council, Somerset Council, I keep saying that, Somerset Council. And I had a reply yesterday, basically, which said, in a few words, I'm sorry it's taken so long. We are now expecting to get this survey out within the next 2 weeks, the results of the survey, and a new plan within the next 2 weeks to all the people that responded and local residents. But it's taken, I say, 8 months of cajoling, hammering away, emailing on deaf ears, and it took a formal complaints process, we would say, to actually get something moving. Now, that's not the end of it. Martin, I'm sure, has got something to say on this as well. But I come particularly because it just feels so unjust. The whole scheme feels totally unjust. It's favoured a small group of residents over, as I say, those people, everyone that uses that park and needs to park around that area as well. And we feel that not only is it unjust, it's also maladministration on behalf of the council as well. And we have complained. We're unhappy with the complaint or the response about the complaint, and we will take this as far as it needs to go until this scheme is overturned, this erroneous and unfair and imbalanced scheme. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And this is Weymouth Road. I don't know if you've got the video, but this is a classic sort of, Somerset Road, classic scene. Most mornings, most evenings, you go along the street. This is what you see. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bob. Very helpful. Mark, I think you've got a sort of background on this, and then maybe I can cut across to Martin and then take any other comments.
Yes, thank you, and congratulations. Yes, Bob, Beverly, others, as you know, I've been in touch with you throughout this, as has Martin. In 2018, I was first elected councillor. Within a month, Jane, on my behalf, had organised a meeting in this room to talk about this scheme because of the unrest we felt already. To which Steve Deakin came, the first time we got to know who he was. He promised a town-wide consultation on parking. Some of our councillors in that administration went out and looked at streets, looked at places we could park, extra places we could park, perhaps some more restrictions to come in. And we presented a list of what we thought should happen. I remember his response to that was he couldn't believe that Welsh Mill Road was free parking. So we soon got the idea that monetisation of parking is probably behind this. But as you say, Weymouth Road had a strong lobby group. And it's funny now that people there complain to me about people hacking up and down that road so fast. It's a lot more dangerous than it was when you couldn't get up it. We've had further meetings with Mr. Deakin, or tried to have further meetings with Mr. Deakin. I think he came to one more, but after that, it's fallen on deaf ears. He refused to speak to Frome, in my opinion, he refused to speak to Frome Town Council, would only communicate through Somerset councillors. And now it seems he's refusing to comment. I don't think Martin gets much response from him either. Hopefully he will update us on that, but that's the last I heard about it. And so the people of Trinity, Badcock, said we should have a bit of parking at the bottom of there, and he said, yes, you can have a couple of spaces. But the option of that was he thought that residence parking should be introduced into Trinity as well, which had an even more positive response against it than even more up your way. So that died, and that's not going to go ahead. But it really is it's obvious that Somerset sees this as a bit of a cash cow and a way, not necessarily of controlling parking, but of making some money. It was ill-conceived from 2018. It continues to be ill-conceived. It should be reviewed. We've been promised reviewed. The last time we met him and we said, if this is reviewed, will it be overturned? And he said, in his experience, they'd never been overturned. And so I wasn't hopeful for that, but hopefully Martin has more of an update by being nearer to it than we are.
Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations. I actually would be happy to defer to any member of the public who might want to speak on this before I do.
Okay. Yeah. Can I ask you please make sure you use, just make sure you use the microphone so we can get it recorded properly.
Right, can you hear me now?
That's fine, thanks.
Thank you. My name's John Warman. I'm actually a park user rather than a resident in that area. So I do have a need for some parking so I can access the park. I'm delighted that the Safer Streets scheme has been amended, that the consultations have had an effect, and the restrictions that were originally proposed for 24/7 have now been cut to when the schools are arriving and leaving. So that is really positive. What I'd like to just quickly ask, because I think it will affect parking and the traffic flow and so on, is have the proposals in respect of planters in Somerset Road definitely been dropped? Can anybody say that?
I'm kind of winking at Jane here, but the project manager's not here tonight, but I don't believe so. I think it's just a case of programming them in when they are to be placed. Jane's got something additions there, probably calling me a liar.
No, I'm not going to call you a liar. The planters are in Frome. We're just waiting for the contractors to actually move them and put them in the right places. But it does take some particular machinery to get them moved, which we're in the process of organising. So bear with us, they will be there shortly.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, because I don't think they're an advantage. How many spaces for cars will be lost as a result of the planters?
Without referring back to the plan, I'm afraid I don't know that off the top of my head, but I'm sure we can respond to you on that one at a later date.
Okay, it's just a concern, because I do see plenty of people in the park. The cafe is being used more and more, and I mean, like I was there today, and there were various people with their mobility walkers and such like. So, you know, those sort of people, unless they live very close by, will need some parking. And that, I think, it's a lovely park, and it should be as accessible to as many people as
I don't think anybody would.
Can I just respond on that point particularly?
Yes, you've got some input on that, but we do need to move on fairly quickly.
Yeah, I'm Fiona, I'm Town Councillor for Oakfield Ward, where Safer School Streets is. Just say I completely hear you about the accessibility of the park. There was, on an earlier stage of Safer School Streets, there were actually double yellow lines along the side of the park to prevent parking, and they were dropped for that specific reason. And in terms of the designated parking areas, again, I think we're all trying to call stuff from the dregs of our minds because we weren't sort of prepared for it. But when we looked at it, there is still parking along that road. So yes, we are losing spaces, but it's all about getting it onto one side of the road so that it makes the whole street a lot safer. There is more space, and that there is sort of designated areas so that it's not sort of clogging up around the bends and everything. And it was really carefully thought through. We worked with Sustrans and experts on it so that and we did make it very clear that we did want there to still be parking, just to make the road safer.
Okay, thank you. I know Paul wanted just to finish off on this copy.
Perhaps if I can,
Could I just say something about
can I just
that?
finish what I'm going to say? Would that be all right?
Sorry, yeah.
John, we must remember that School Streets is a trial, and we're gathering opinions all the time. So please do write in and share your views with us, because what we're going to do with Sustrans and Somerset Council is put it all in the pot and decide whether the scheme was a success or not. And if it isn't a success in 18 months, everything will be taken away. If it is a success, it may be amended and may be kept, but it's a trial at this point. So everyone's views are really, really welcome.
Thank you. Could I just say that the Weymouth Road scheme was supposed to be a trial scheme as well, and we're still waiting, basically, and I don't know how long that's been going on, but the Safer Street scheme is something on top of that, which takes away even more spaces. So really, the Weymouth Road scheme needs to be looked at properly before you can decide what to do with the Safer Street scheme. That makes sense to me. You'd be looking overall at everything.
I think the message we've always given to Somerset is that actually parking and traffic in Frome needs looking at holistically. We've implemented the Safer School Streets thing in collaboration with Sustrans to address a specific problem around the safety of the school children. And that's a trial that is being run by Frome Town Council, by Somerset Council in collaboration.
Yes.
So bear with us on that one. And as we said, just feedback your experiences of it. But we do need to move on with this evening's business. If I can just ask if there were any other residents who needed to make a different point as part of this discussion. If not, I'll ask Martin just to have the last few words.
Thank you. I've got an update anyway in the last week. Yes, it took me a long time to chase Mr. Deakin, the parking officer, and I would point out to those people in the room that these decisions are made by parking officers. They're not made around a table by committee members. They're not made by councillors. So this is a problem that I inherited, unenviably, I feel. But I eventually got a response from Mr. Deakin after I reported him. I don't think I should have to do that. I don't think that really engenders a good relationship. What I received was a draft report, which I wasn't meant to share, and it was produced for my comment. It wasn't for public referral. I think it's fair enough now to say, in view of the fact it will come out soon, that there was, he had surveyed the residents of Weymouth Road to ask if they thought the scheme was working. Weymouth Road. So I think it's fair to say it was a self-fulfilling prophecy as to what the answer might be, because it probably has worked extremely well for residents of Weymouth Road. He has therefore fulfilled what he needs to do in order to justify maintaining this. And as you said, that no other scheme has been overturned. So that doesn't fill me with any great hope over this. I visited Weymouth Road a number of times, and a couple of months back I bumped into Tristan, who's here tonight, and we had a look round. We made a few observations. The observations that I made, I thought were that the double yellow lines at the bottom of Weymouth Road were extremely long and unnecessarily long, and if removed, could actually provide some areas of parking. I've had a look at that again tonight before I came to the meeting, and they would, I think, enable us to unload a number of parking spaces. The area from the park gates down the hill, I think there are more signs there for parking permits than is actually necessary. I also noticed that on the basis that each dwelling can buy a parking permit, there are some houses that are quite big and have at least 2 parking spaces outside of them. I think those could be released. The top end of the road by the park, I think there is a lot of confusion about whether or not how long you can park there. I actually forgotten, I think it's an hour and a half. But if that was opened up to a longer period of time, say 4 or 5 hours, it would allow for more flexible parking. When I've been up there, certainly during the week, those parking spaces are not really being used, not to any great extent. So these are suggestions that I've put back to him to reform his review, to incorporate. He said he was coming to Frome. He wanted to meet me in Frome. I agreed. He was ill. But he has apparently been to Frome, looked at it for himself, and it will be entirely up to him whether he incorporates any of my views or not. But I hope he does. I think I've spoke with Paul recently about Frome Town Council and the Safer Streets parking, which I think is a very brave attempt. I'm not saying that patronisingly, to take on a really difficult problem. Traffic congestion, parking issues, pedestrian problems, schools are all a major problem in Frome. And unless people do not decide to go without cars, and I'm as guilty as the next person in the fact that I own a car, unless we decide not to do that, we are going to continue to have these problems. But I think we do need to sit down with Frome Town Council and review the area. And I would agree, I'm dismayed that since I became a councillor on the county in 2017, we've been talking about review. I've been chasing a review for parking throughout Frome, and I've got absolutely nowhere. For that, I apologise. For if the suggestions I have put forward to modify Mr. Dakin's report come into being, I think some sort of compromise will be achieved. I know it's not what people want, but I don't think there's a way I can come down either side on this argument and win it. And I think that that's probably where it will stop for the time being, unless another parking officer comes into being.
Okay, thank you very much. Bob, do you want to finish off?
Just a final quick word, really, to say the Weymouth Road group here are just concerned with Weymouth Road and the Weymouth Road parking scheme. The Safer School Streets is not in our remit. It's not been part of our discussions at all. We think the Town Council's actually consulted well on that, and we're sure that you will actually properly consult as this scheme go forward. Our concern has been continually about the Weymouth Road permit scheme. Just to make that clear, the second point, when Martin said that Weymouth Road residents only were consulted last summer, that isn't correct, actually. It was all the streets in the local area, including Somerset Road, Domits Lane, etc., were all consulted on the scheme. We all completed a survey. The Town Council actually sent that survey on its website to the whole town. So people across the whole town will have completed that. And that's why we're so angry, that all those people have responded to those survey when asked, but we haven't had any kind of response whatsoever. And finally, Mark's absolutely right in terms of the need for an overall town survey on parking, because parking issues aren't confined to Weymouth Road or Somerset Road or Castle Street. They are all over the town, and the town is growing. More and more people are going to come into the centre of town from outside. They aren't going to walk, they're going to drive, they're going to need somewhere to park, they're going to want to visit the park itself. So, there needs to be an overall parking scheme. And the last one was done apparently in 2009. And most of that wasn't implemented. So, that needs to happen as a matter of course and urgently. Thank you for your patience.
Okay. And thank you all very much for coming along this evening to raise your concerns. That's exactly why we have these public forums. We do now need to move on to the rest of our business for the evening. You're all very welcome to stay if you want to, but I do totally understand if you need to go off and do your own things for the evening. Okay, so we'll now move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which gets us back into our more formal business. The first item is apologies for absence. All have we got some?
We have Anne Hills, Nick Dove, Mel Usher, Max Wide, Andy Rintmore, and Carl Connet is online.
Okay, thank you. We need to vote to accept those apologies. So we've got a proposer. I'll take the Lisa, even if she was upside down, and Anita as seconder. All those in favour? I think Sarah's just stepped out for a moment, but that's
unanimous.
Sufficient. Right.
She's left. Carla's left. Okay. Carla's here. Sarah's left. So it's unanimous then.
Okay, thank you. Declaration of councillors' interests. Any specific interests anybody needs to call out about tonight's business? No? Okay. And the approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Anybody, any reason why I shouldn't sign those as a true and accurate record? And I have a proposer that we accept them. Phil, seconded by Mark. All those in favour? Okay.
Abstain or... So that's majority with Fiona abstaining.
Yeah. Do you need me to sign those now or later?
We can
Do that later. Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 4, questions and comments from the public and councillors. I can see Lenka and then Jill.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to follow on from the last meeting regarding the Somerset Council access point going from Frome Library. So it is indeed planned to go at the end of June. I'd like to thank councillors Michael Duncan, Martin Demery for contacting us straight after that last meeting and taking it up with the staff and officers, the portfolio holder, and they're doing their best to support, and the Somerset Council staff have been in contact, and it's going to be going to a visual link and they'll be demonstrating that. And I'd like to thank Nikki Cox for working with me, and we're just looking at solutions about how we can go forward with that. And we've planned in a training session to do for Fair Frome. So we're going to be training some staff up at Frome Town Council to do referrals. Obviously, again, thank you. You're, filling that gap. This is not ideal. It's kind of following on from the last thing, isn't it? That there was no consultation with anybody, any organisations, yourselves, anybody. And again, it's going to be the most vulnerable people that are going to suffer as a result of this face-to-face service going. So just, for the record, thank you.
Thank you, Lenka. Jill?
I'd just like to say...
Just...
Oh, do I need a mic?
Yes, please.
I'd just like to say I'm really excited at bus number 24. Direct route to Salisbury. I have been 3 times and it's wonderful. So thank you to Tracy Harding and others who have got that route going. Wonderful. Now then, I'm going to have another moan. The blighted area, I'm talking about Henley Way, Foundry Barton on the Singer site. The blighted area belonging to Greenacres, which are based in Glasgow. I am in contact by phone and email, and the last email I had was I got really excited. They were going to send a contractor in to deal with the site in May. Here we are, 15th of May, so I just sort of triggered their little nudge their elbow on Monday and spoke to them again, and they're going to refer, and they're going to send another email, and so it goes round and round. I've spoken to Mark about it, and it goes round in circles when that area, and it's looking hideous, is going to be sorted, I don't know. Another little item regarding, I've seen Anita looking at traffic going hopefully at 20 miles an hour up and down Bar Street and Cork Street, and I reckon, and I have to tell you, 90% of drivers do not go at 20 miles an hour, they go more. And I have to say also that the writing on the road is looking really quite faint now. They need to be repainted, and perhaps perhaps more drivers will take notice of them. I don't know. Anyway, end of my moans. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Steve, I think you'd got something to raise.
Hello, thank you, Andy. The first one is from Sarah, actually. And she wanted to ask a question about Sorry, Martin, you're the only Somerset councillor here. It's about the Somerset's attitude to no mow May, given the sort of ecological emergency, climate emergency, because I think there was a load of strimming done this week in various parts around town, which got quite a few people upset. Maybe we can take it offline and have a chat and have a chat with Sarah as well about it at some point.
Yeah, I can't answer that one without knowing it, but that's. I know there's a policy to allow wilding of areas, but every so often they do have to be cut back. I'll find out about it.
Great, thanks very much. I've got another question as well. Is that all right?
Yeah, carry on.
And it's another one for you, Martin. Sorry. It's regarding the site at Vallis Road that's been supposedly up for development for the last Lord knows how long. Sustainable, the one that was Sustainable Britain. Yeah. As far as we're aware, it's now owned by a pension company out of Melksham. Strangely, the pension company's only been in operation for about 18 months or something like that. And I think the last information we got from it, they have no intention to develop the site soon. Just, you know, is there any way that we can work together, us and Somerset Council, to actually put some pressure on these people to either do something with it or sell it? Because it's ridiculous. It's just laying there sort of derelict and, you know, when we desperately want sites to build houses on.
Steve, you may have to tell me, was it recently sold to the pension company by Somerset? Was it Somerset land?
Well, it was, hang on, Jane, jump in when I get this wrong.
So the site was previously owned by Sustainable Britain. You might have seen that their name was on the hoarding that's now fallen down, and it must have been sold. We only became aware that it had been sold when we managed to track down the pension trusts that now own it. So it's never been owned by Somerset Council. It has planning permission for, I think, something like 75 houses, but the pension trust themselves, who purchased the land, weren't actually aware that it still had planning permission. They thought it had lapsed. So we have a site that's there, able to provide, you know, the much needed housing in Frome with affordable housing, but it appears as though it's being land banked. So I think what Steve's saying is anything that we can try and do and work with the officers at Somerset to encourage the site to be developed would be appreciated.
I think my answer is if we could get together on this, and then I think the first people we must approach are the owners and ask them what their intentions are. We've done well. Okay, we'll continue the discussion.
Yeah, as I say, I just wanted to raise it, and we can take it offline. And
I'm afraid one of the things that bothers me, I have to say this. I asked the question about Somerset. So much land is up. Everything is up for sale. There's a fire sale going on at the moment, and that therefore opens up the possibility of this sort of thing happening all the time, and things being land banked. And thank you for letting me know what was going on. I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah, as I say, we'll take it offline, Martin.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Talk about it. Thanks.
Anything else from you, Steve? Okay. Anita, I know you've got one.
Thank you, Andy. I just really wanted to try and find a bit more out about the process for empty buildings, only because I constantly pass a very big empty house in Berkeley Road on my way to town. It's been empty, to my knowledge, for about 4 years. And it just strikes me as such a waste, really. And I just wonder if we have a process for digging into that, finding out whether or not the owners have actually been given an option or been asked what their intentions are.
Okay, can I ask Jane to take that?
Thank you. We as a town council don't have a process, but Somerset do, or certainly did previously, have an officer who is responsible for dealing with empty homes. They hold, I believe, a register of empty homes, and they actually have a process whereby they can, if they can track them down, they can contact and talk to the owners about that. So if you're happy to, if you want to send me the details, I will pass that through to the relevant person at Somerset for you.
Will do. Thank you, Jane.
Okay, thank you. Lucy?
Hi, just to say briefly, Councillor Adam Boyden is online and says he is also listening, happy to take questions, just so Martin isn't completely on his own.
Okay. Fiona, I can see your hand.
It's not for Martin, so you can be released. It's about the activist report. We were initially told that we were going to see it before our January precept discussion, and councillors still haven't seen it. And I'm just wondering when we are going to see it, because we keep being repeatedly told it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. We have obviously paid money for it, for the devolution, and I don't know what's happening with it, but I'd quite like to see it.
I think it was the March unitary update that we said we'd bring it back. We hadn't received it at that point, and we have now received it. It's quite a long report that I'm spending quite a lot of time trying to go. So the intention is not to withhold it from councillors at all. What I need to do though is to read it and then have some recommendations for you. And I've just had a lot on my plate at the moment, Fiona.
I completely understand that. I just wanted to register that.
Yeah.
And I think we were told not by you, but by other councillors that we would have it in time for January. And I just wanted to register that that we're sort of waiting for it.
Nudge accepted.
Are you able to give us a likely time when we can see it, Paul?
Either the June or the July meeting. I mean, I'm hoping for the June. It's when it reaches the kind of opportunity for me to deal with.
Okay, thank you. Martin, did you have anything more general to say to the meeting?
You won't want to hear too much from me, will you? Really. So without dragging on, you may know that the Selwood Garden Community application is now about to go in. We think maybe for the next meeting at planning. We were given a brief on it. I was appalled because the only people that turned up out of the, however many councillors there are in what was the Mendip area, at the start of the meeting there were 3 of us from Frome, one being absent, on absent leave of absence. Adam was online, 1 councillor from Wells and 2 from the neighbouring wards, and there wasn't half the committee there, and others were. And this is an issue which is going to, the people who most need to know about this are the people who aren't in Frome. And we had a very good briefing, and Steve asked me about it earlier. I would say it was balanced. I don't think it was intended to tilt us towards passing it. My mailbox has been full day after day with people objecting to it, and obviously, as I think you know, we can't comment on which way we swing with this because we won't be allowed to vote if we do that until the meeting itself. So that's the big one that's coming up. The Saxon Vale development, the bids are in for the land. We are very concerned. It's being dealt with by an external contractor. It's being taken, the county has sort of moved it out of their own hands for them to report back and consider. I think this is going to be a major issue, as you know, and I think that will be done by the autumn. I think we should be expecting to receive that report. So these are big things. Recently, we had some better news. We've been campaigning very strong, some of us very strongly, against the use of ash and wood at 3 miles in that direction as a sort of rubbish depository for the expected quarry that's being applied for, the West Down quarry. It's being applied to reopen by Heidelberg. Ash and wood is not going to be a rubbish tip. It's going to be preserved because legally they can't do that, and that was a result of the campaign that was conducted against them. That's good news. The least good news is I think there's a likelihood that from my point of view, the West Down quarry will go ahead. I think that's the way it's looking at the moment. It's really difficult to get officers to go out on a limb with anything because they are frightened stiff of being litigation or appeals costing the council huge amounts of money. And on that subject, the billboards that we opposed at Portway we lost the appeal on that, not the illuminated ones, but the plain ones. We lost the appeal on that. And that's cost about £3,000 to Somerset that it can ill afford. So you can see the direction of travel, and that's something to bear in mind when they come to consider things like Selwell Garden Community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. If everybody's okay, I suggest we move on to item 5 then.
Yeah, what I thought I'd do is not read out the draft standing orders for readoption.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've glanced at the report, which proposes some very, very minor amendments to standing orders. I suggest they're not significant, but that's for you to decide. So the recommendation is to approve the drafts that I've sent you out. The second recommendation on this report, just to reconfirm that the general power of competence conditions are met by this council, which I confirm that they are.
Thank you. Fiona?
I don't know whether it's to do with the standing orders or not, but I thought of it as I was reading about the terms of reference for the grants committee and stuff, is I think apparently, because I'm a member of the oversight committee, all councillors get sent the notification for the oversight committee and get sort of told about it, but I'm not a member of the grants committee and I never know what's going on with it. So I just wondered why that is, and I'm not saying I necessarily want like the notification for the grants committee, but it would be helpful to know when it's happening and what the, and also what the outcomes are, because I think councillors get asked quite a lot about stuff, and it would be really helpful to have, be sort of kept in the loop on stuff, even if you're not on the committee. But I also don't want to clog up people's inboxes any more than they already are.
No, we've still sort of been establishing the rhythm of the grants committee, but I do send out the notification in the same way that I would for oversight and council. So all of the notification of the meetings when they're happening, at least 3 clear working days ahead of the meeting, I would send out an email to say that it's happening and that there is an event page on the website in the way that there is for council, and there's the list of applicants, how much they've applied for. And then the meeting is actually held in public and is on YouTube. And
Do we get that?
you should do, and if you don't, then tell me. Because
I really don't think I get anything about the grants committee because I never know when it's happening. Maybe I am missing it, and that could be my fault.
Last year there was only 2 meetings in the whole year, so they're not like monthly or 6 weekly or anything like that. There's one. Help me out. There's one in June. It's on the website. The date is on. The next meeting is June. The applications are ending in end of May.
I'll search my email and probably send you an apology because we probably do get them.
I promise I will send out the notification to tell you when it is.
I can always pop on the WhatsApp next time I see something come in, just so that everybody's aware to look for it. Okay. Any other questions or comments on this? Have we got a recommendation to display, or is it just? Okay, so I guess it's easier just to take these 2 items together. Lisa's proposing, Fiona's seconding. All those in favour?
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Hopefully item 6 goes through as smoothly. Calendar of meetings. Any comments or questions on that? If not, can I have a proposer? Anita, seconded. Fiona. Unanimous.
Unanimous again.
Okay. And then we've got the leader and deputy leader of the council, membership of chairs, etc. You should all have had this list through in advance. Anybody got any questions? Anybody feel they've been excluded from something they want to participate in, or that they've been included when they didn't want to be? No? Okay. Can I have a proposer? Okay. Well, shall we take the leader and deputy leader first, and then we'll take the committees? So proposed leader is Steve Tanner, deputy Lisa. So I'll take that as proposed by Anita, seconded by Polly, and it's unanimous. Thank you all. And then if I can get somebody to propose across all the three committees, that's Mark. Sorry? Yes, Lisa.
Really sorry to say this now, but I just had a conversation with Polly, and I was just aware in the planning, if there's only one female present at it, it feels a little bit perhaps weighted towards more of a male perspective. So I'm wondering if there's any other female councillors who'd like to sit on the council. I know that some of the female members of the committee can't always make it.
Same for the Oversight Committee. I noticed that earlier. Just me and Anne. Me and Polly.
There are two women at least, three.
Yeah, there's two. No, she's saying when somebody's absent. She's saying when somebody's absent.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, is anybody willing to put their name forward to be added to any of those committees?
I'll stay on planning unless, Tracy, do you want to go on to planning? Okay.
Okay. So your proposal is that we add Lisa to the planning committee. Do we need to vote on that
Yes,
separately?
we just need to vote on an amendment. Yeah.
So can I have a proposer, please, ladies and gents? Can I have a proposer for Lisa to be added to the planning committee? That's Steve Tanner, seconded by Fiona. And it looks like it's unanimous.
Yep.
Okay, and then if we can have a proposer for that complete set of committees that now includes Lisa on planning. So Lisa's proposed, Polly's seconded, and it's unanimous again.
Cool.
Okay. Item 8 is deciding whether to adopt the council's financial regs. I'll ask Sarah to just talk us through this one.
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Can you hear me okay? Am I coming out of the speakers?
I think so.
Can you hear Sarah okay? Sarah, just...
Jill, can you hear me okay? Yes. Great, thanks. Okay, so the financial regulations govern the conduct of financial transactions of the council, its staff and councillors. They're reviewed annually to ensure they're updated and fit for purpose. This year we're proposing 3 amendments that were described in the paper distributed. The second and the third amendments are fairly straightforward. Proposal 2 is people's budget becomes called grants from Frome Town Council, and that the Mayor and Town Clerk are able to decide on grant applications up to £500 instead of £300. And proposal 3 is to replace the word negative with positive throughout the ethical decision matrix. Thank you, Fiona, for that suggestion. Are there any questions on those 2 proposals? Great. So the first proposal is to increase the recommended minimum general reserve that we hold, and it's been 180,000 since 2013. We're proposing that it is moved closer towards the recommended 3 months net revenue expenditure, which would be 450,000, but I'm proposing 350,000. I could say a lot more about it, but I think everyone is looking like, yeah, get on with it. Is everyone happy with that proposal too? Okay. Okay. Would anyone else like to hear more about the justification for that? We are hearing from professional experts at NAUC, so from outside Frome, that town councils in particular need to be built on financial resilience in the face of crises in principal authorities across the country, and this is particularly so in Somerset. In January, I did say that councils across the county were going to be increasing their presets considerably, and you can see Frome's stands in the middle of the 22 largest Somerset councils. So that's just for your information. So is everyone happy with the recommended proposals for the financial regs?
Okay, can I have well, let me just check, are there any questions for Sarah first? No? Let's have a proposer. Steve, seconded by Lisa. All those in favour? That's
It's
unanimous again.
unanimous. Yep.
Great.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
So,
We need you to stay there for the next bit.
yeah. So at this time of year, we produce the reports for the financial year ending March. This year it's to March 24, and we finished the year with a surplus of 255,000, which sounds like a lot, but actually only 2% of that came from revenue expenditure. 82,000 came from bank interest, which we hadn't budgeted for. You'll remember sometime last year we decided to move our reserves to the CCLA, which offers a higher interest than the banks we had been holding our funds in, and that was where the majority of our funds came from. Or the other half also came from recruitment holds, so we have salary savings in the year to date. I'm recommending that the surplus is used for the prudent reserve of 350k. The earmarked reserves were distributed with the papers, and a quick breakdown of that is 200,000 is held for devolution projects, 178,000.
Sorry, Sarah, do you have another slide beyond this one for this?
Sorry, is that one?
That's, thank you.
Beg your pardon. 200,000 is held for devolution, 178,000 is held for capital expenditure only, and that is money we've earned from the sale of land, a little bit left over from the Saxon Vale sale, and some from the sale of the old hospital ground many years ago. We're still holding on to that, and that needs to be spent on capital projects. We're also holding 200,000 in grant funding, so that's not our money that we're holding, it's been given to us to pass on. We have to get the annual governance and accountability returns signed at this meeting, and it has to be signed in a particular format. So, and if anyone has any questions on the finances before we go ahead to approve the statements.
So actually, just before you jump in, I've got a question. So I'm going to exercise that. I'd sent you an email about one of the earmarked reserves that related to the transition of funds from Active in Touch.
Yes.
Is that covered in the general sign-off?
It is. So in the earmarked reserves, you'll see there's one specific one that was temporary we took on this year. When Active and In Touch closed, they asked us to hold the funds that had been given to Frome community drivers while that organisation created a new CIC. We have done that for the last 2 months. The CIC is already up and running, we're told, which is amazing speed and efficiency. So we should be handing those funds back in the next month. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Fiona.
Clarity, I've just slightly lost it in terms of the money on devolution particularly. So the 200 for the devolution initiatives, is that on top of the 350 that we allocated in this year's budget? No.
No, it's not.
Okay.
On this year's precept, we will add 150 to that 200, and that will hold our 350 devolution budget.
Okay. And then yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Sarah?
Jill.
Jill?
You need a microphone, Jill.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that we've still got that 29,000 for the open spaces on the Singer site. Have we?
We do at present. Yes, there are plans to renew the ramp at Henley Way, which that may go towards that.
I'm sort of also regarding the street lights in the open space, which is the one near me in Foundry Barton.
Okay, we'll make a note of that, Jill, and let Rob...
I think I did mention it last year, and over last winter, the light came on, and then it went off, and then it came on, and then it went off, and it stayed off, and that's all we've seen. So, I mean, if some of that money could be paid to repair that lamp,
I have to know Rob Holden is out of hospital today and is online.
Hey!
There you go, Rob. Not only
I don't want to burden him with anything like that. I just want...
I think he might be delighted with the distraction.
Right. Okay. I
Thank you,
just want...
Jill, it's noted.
Right.
Thanks. Martin, did I see you had a question?
I just want to say thank you. I'd not actually seen those figures before on terms of the precept for each of the town councils you went through, and I noticed that Frome looks relatively modest, despite the debate that you had about putting it up. I just, for information really, it was notable that the three big towns, the bigger towns, Yeovil, Bridgewater and Taunton, have seen massive increases. I think part of that is down to the fact that Taunton is a new council. They didn't actually have a town council. And I think they're just probably building up their reserves. And like Bridgewater, they have major construction issues that they've taken on. And a lot of this is, like you, it's all to do with the fact that these services are not coming from Somerset. But Yeovil's an interesting one. They have picked up the pieces of the grant that was allocated to the Octagon Theatre and then withdrawn. £10 million was committed from South Somerset. That was passed on to Somerset, and Somerset welched on the deal. And they need the 10 million, otherwise the Arts Council won't provide their half. So that's one of the reasons they've gone up. So like you, these towns are all increasing their precept enormously, but you've done pretty well to keep it down to what it is, really.
I think we have. I think it's been steady over the last 10 years, and that's all thanks to the previous RFO. This slide is courtesy of the Yeovil councillor for Somerset, Graham Oakes. He put the data together for us.
Okay. If there's, Steve, you've got a question?
I was just going to thank Sarah, actually, because I know it's been a tough year in terms of getting all the numbers together because of all the question marks, and well done.
Well, exemplary bookkeeping by Hannah, which is...
And Hannah, of course, yeah, absolutely.
Auditor. I couldn't do this job without Hannah. No.
Good old Hannah.
So just for clarity, we should probably take these recommendations separately. So first of all, can I have a proposer that we sign off the AGAR?
Okay, so we need to get that signed in a particular order, and the chair and clerk of the meeting need to sign AGAR sheet 1 first.
So we just need someone to propose it, though.
Oh, sorry.
So, yeah, so I'll take Lisa as proposer, Phil as seconder. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Okay, do you want to guide us on how we sign this?
So you sign there, and I sign below. Marvellous.
And recommendation 2, to note that I've certified the accounting statements fairly represent the financial position of Frome Town Council. And recommendation 3 is to instruct the chair to sign on councillors' behalf.
Sorry, this is about the most important decision you make in the year. Please, please, give Sarah some respect.
So I can see Lisa proposing that. I'll take Anita as the seconder. All those in favour? It's unanimous again. It's helpful when councillors all sit together at one side of the room, isn't it?
So Sarah, just guide us.
The exercise of public rights. Oh, yeah, that's Andy to sign just here, please.
Okay.
And the exercise of public rights will be Monday the 3rd of June to Friday the 12th of July. That is when any member of the public can ask to see the accounting records just by contacting and making an appointment.
Okay, are we happy with the rest of those recommendations? Let's just get them through. Steve proposing, Lisa seconding. All those in favour? When Polly's finished reading them. Okay, yeah, that's unanimous as well.
It's unanimous.
Okay, so just for the public record, our next meeting will be on Wednesday the 12th of June at 7 p.m. The reason I mention that now is that we have a final item which we need to take in camera. So can I ask one of the councillors to propose that we now go into a closed session? Mark proposing, Lisa seconding, and again that's unanimous. So if I can ask members of the public and press now to leave the room, please.